Hello, and a very warm welcome to another edition of the Open Door Show from Property CEO. My name's Ian Child, and once again, I find myself flying solo in this episode as the other half of Property CEO, Mr. Richie Clapson. Well, he's gone AWOL, just jetted off somewhere without telling anybody, but that means that I get a chance to tell you, well, about some really interesting stuff instead for the next half an hour or so. What exactly is Open Door all about? Well, it's your chance to take a dive into the world of small-scale property development. So on Open Door, we talk to the movers and the shakers out there, all in an effort to give you the lowdown on what's happening in the world of property. And we also take a look at any new areas that we think could be a good opportunity for new developers to get involved in. Now, as a property development training company, we also get to see all sorts of issues that students encounter on their journey. And so the other thing that we like to do here on Open Door is, well, turn a bit of a spotlight on those things. Some of the challenges, some of the things that get in the way for a lot of people, and maybe share a little insight as to how people can overcome those things. So in this episode, I'm going to be taking a bit of a step back and having a bit of an overview of what I consider to be the top things that new developers get wrong, and hopefully give you a few pointers on how to get them right. So we're going to be covering quite a few bases in the next half an hour or so. And let me tell you that in the world of property development, there's quite a few things that experienced developers get right, let alone the new people that are trying it for the first time. So let's make a start. Where should we start with? Well, one of the first and most important things that we need to kind of focus on as developers is getting deals. We need to be able to have enough opportunities coming into what is effectively a bit like a sales funnel. What we do is we get projects in, we take a look at them, and we kind of move them along a bit of a production line or down a funnel, so that initially we will be rejecting them if they're no good, and then we do a bit more work and we'll keep on throwing out the stuff that doesn't pass muster until eventually we get to a point where we've got some deals that look great. We're going to have to kiss quite a few frogs to be able to find a deal that kind of stacks up. That's fine. That goes with the territory. Good news is a decent property deal at a small scale level is likely to net you a six-figure project, typically between 100 and maybe 500,000 pounds. So let's be honest, these are golden nuggets. So we're quite happy to make sure that we're doing the hard work necessary to find these things. But you do need to go the extra mile. Just doing the same thing that everybody else is doing is going to make it hard work, because you're not really pushing the envelope. You're not doing anything different enough. One of the areas where I see people fall down on this is they're not working hard enough to develop relationships with agents. So typically, if you're looking, whether you're looking for land or commercial properties to develop and convert, you are going to be one of the best places of getting them from commercial agents. But what you need to do is to have a great relationship, not with every agent, but with some agents. And if you can have one, two, or three agents that you've got this great relationship with, absolutely perfect. And you can kind of build that relationship, work the rapport. These agents, they're kind of getting close to becoming friends rather than just kind of business acquaintances, because you know them really well. You enjoy each other's company. Now, that's not going to happen to every agent you talk to, and it doesn't need to. We, as I said, only need to do it to a few. But what quite often happens is that people get a little bit scared when it comes to dealing with agents. It's kind of, as soon as other people are involved, it's an area where people can get a bit self-conscious, a bit nervous, and don't want to step outside their comfort zone. And so they don't try hard enough to build those relationships. They don't take enough steps to get to a point where they know an agent really, really well. You know, that we're talking about, we know stuff about them personally. You know, are they married? Do they have children? Where are they going on holiday this year? What team do they support? You know, because we're having conversations with them that are kind of outside the kind of the property vertical. We're now talking about them about kind of other stuff and building that rapport. So make a point of going the extra mile when it comes to building those relationships. As I said, lots of people don't do it enough. You want to make sure that you've got some great personal relationships with agents, because that's a great way of getting into a place where you are going to get an early opportunity to look at stuff. You'll get a phone call. You can put yourself in that hot buyers list and get an early call as opportunities come on the market. Now, another thing that I think is a problem for many people, frankly, is they're not working hard enough. it, you have to work pretty hard. And you, let's be honest, for any enterprise where you can make a six-figure profit from just doing one of them, expect to work fairly hard, because there aren't too many jobs in life where you can actually earn that sort of money. Certainly not without working, putting a few hours in. So this isn't kind of a kind of a get rich quick opportunity. Property development requires you to do some hard work. And a lot of that hard work, as I kind of referenced just a moment ago, is in looking at deals. So you need to look at enough deals to do a few things. First of all, it is a numbers game. So the more deals you look at, the more chance you've got of finding something that works. Second thing that's really important is that you get practice at it. So the more deals you analyze, the more, when you do things like block planning, all the sorts of things that we teach on our program, how you can get really, really good at not only crunching the numbers, but also working out how to maximize the value of a property. That really does move you forward. You need to get really great at that stuff. And the only way of doing it, frankly, is practice, practice, practice. So make sure that you've got enough deals coming in and that you're crunching the numbers, you're doing the analysis on these deals, because without that, then you are going to, you're going to be languishing. You're not going to be looking at enough deals, and other people will be ahead of you in the game. What we're trying to do here is get to a point where, we are one of the front runners to get that next deal, because we're doing stuff better than other people, and making sure that you're doing enough analysis and doing lots of them, absolutely critical to your success. One area where I certainly see people fall down, if I look at the world of property developers, particularly, I guess, people that haven't been trained, it's about credibility. So what you need to do is to build a professional looking brand around your business. For a lot of people, they don't think to do this, or they only do it in a kind of half-assed way. So they've kind of ticked the basic, well, I've got a website of sorts and the business card's all right, and it's, and they kind of probably rely a little bit too much on their own personality. And of course, if you've got a great personality, you engage with people, you build rapport, that's great. But at the end of the day, personality, it's kind of difficult to win business on personality alone. You've got to have some substance behind it. At the end of the day, if you're working with an agent and you make an offer and the offer gets accepted, but then you pull out down the line, no matter what your personality is like, at the end of the day, you're going to be judged on whether you proceeded or not. And so people need to get comfortable that whatever your personality, that beneath that, there is a professional business. There's a brand that exudes quality, professionalism around what you do. And you've got so many tools to be able to do that, haven't you? You've got your professional team in particular that look brilliant. Let's be honest, I've not seen yours, but I know they're brilliant because they are trained to the nth degree in each individual discipline. There's architects, project managers, structural engineers, all of these people that are great at doing their specific discipline. And of course, you're bringing them all together to develop a project. So I want to see them. It's not just you. I mean, you look lovely, but I want to see other people as well. That's going to give me the confidence. And again, I see people not maximizing their benefit, not maximizing their assets there. So make sure that what people see of you looks professional. That's an area where some people let themselves down by just not going that extra mile. And getting that credibility, particularly if you're doing it for the first time, is so important, because everybody's looking. There's obviously going to be a question mark for a new first-time developer, and you want to make sure that question mark is as tiny as possible. And let me tell you, for some people getting into property development, I've seen, luckily not in our program, but those question marks are pretty big. So make sure that you're looking professional. Another area where you can make make a big difference, and it's an area that, again, a lot of people fall down on, is a failure to systemize their business. So when we're looking at what we're doing here as a developer, there are quite a lot of moving parts. We're really lucky. It is a heavily outsourced business model, but one of probably the most highly leveraged business models that I've ever come across. because so much of the work is done by other people in terms of the development project. But the bit that you do as a developer is pretty important, because you're particularly the bit about finding deals and looking for properties to develop. And if you that process can involve lots of different moving parts. It for sure involves talking to agents, but you're also going to be looking elsewhere for deals, finding off-market deals, looking through, portals, other auctions, other places where you can find opportunities. And of course, it's very easy for it to kind of almost grow arms and legs that you weren't expecting. When you start off and you've talked to a couple of agents and they've sent you a handful of deals to look at, it's all nice and comfortable. You know the agents, you can remember their names, and you can see the deals, and it's kind of, you understand how they all work. But as soon as multiply that out, and you think about the size of the area most developers are looking at is likely to be, for example, within an hour of home. Well, that's a big area. That could be a few counties worth, and there's quite a few agents in those counties. So you're going to be talking to lots of different people. Each of those agents will have multiple people in it, and they're going to send you multiple properties. So over time, it builds into this massive kind of a whole series of data, a whole series of phone calls that you've had, properties you've looked at, analysis you've done, relationships you've got, different levels, different people, different agencies. Oh my goodness. It's a minefield. And there's little old you trying to manage all of this. Make sure that you've got a system sitting behind it that makes it easy. And there are so many other areas in your business that you can outsource. As a property developer, I mean, it's one of the things that we instill in our students and create for them platforms that enable them to be able to systemize their processes within their business, because it just makes life a lot easier. So make sure that you've kind of got an eye on the systemization part of what you're doing, and create a system around as many things as possible that you do, and also outsource as necessary. We're big fans of outsourcing because not every job needs to be done yourself. You can give more routine jobs and farm that out to other people, and free up your time to focus on things where you're going to add the biggest benefit. So many times I've come across people who have kind of adopted the mindset of, well, I'm going to do it myself, A, because it's cheaper, and B, because I can guarantee that it gets done properly. Well, actually, guess what? It's not free, because the time you've spent doing that rather mundane task is time you could be spent doing something far more important. So there is effectively a cost of it, a lost opportunity cost. But of course, the fact that you can do it brilliantly isn't a recipe for a reason for not doing it. Get somebody else to do it and train them up to do it nearly as well as you can. I suspect that they don't have to be absolutely as great as you or as perfect as you, but you're getting, your net position is much better because you freed up the time to work on something else. Another area that I see people fall down on is, it kind of goes back to the hard work thing. The most challenging place to find deals as a developer is off market. And let's be honest, it would be, wouldn't it? Because if you're looking on, I don't know, Rightmove, you can see properties where one thing's for sure, you can be absolutely confident about this, unless there's been something slightly untoward happening in the background, that all of the people that own the properties that are on Rightmove want to sell them. Might seem a very obvious point, but and it represents a certain proportion of the buildings in this country appear on Rightmove. Not a very big percentage, but for sure, everybody on Rightmove and other websites are available. Anything that's on sale with an agent, it's on sale. The owner wants to sell it. It is therefore more difficult to persuade the owner of a property who doesn't have it on the market to sell it to you. I mean, it would be, wouldn't it? It would absolutely be more difficult because they might not want to sell it. Now, you've got a great advantage as a property developer because you are typically able to pay more for a property, particularly if you're going to convert it into residential. You're going to be able to pay more for a property than it's worth in its current state. So particularly if it's kind of a slightly more decrepit building, a slightly tired looking commercial building of some description, somebody a business that buys that building and then moves into it and runs their operations out of it, they might have to spend a few bob kind of doing it up and bringing it into the 21st century, a few running repairs, but it has a value as a commercial building. You're going to be able to pay more than that typically, because you're going to be converting it to residential. You don't need to do it up, or rather, you need to do it up anyway. So it's got far more. It's far more attractive to you, and you can pay more for it. And so that creates a gap. It means that for the owner of that building, they have a perception that their property is worth X as a commercial building, but you come along and you could offer them Y. I mean, imagine if somebody knocked on your door this evening and it was a local developer and they said, sorry to bother you, but I'm really interested in buying your house. I know it's not on the market, but I'm prepared to pay a premium because I'm a local developer and I'm obviously going to be developing it and I can make some more money. So I'm prepared to for you to be a winner here, and I'm going to pay you a six-figure sum more than it's actually worth. Well, that doesn't happen every day, does it? And so, yeah, you don't really question it. You certainly question the developer and you'll do your due diligence on them, but you kind of take it as read that, yeah, of course, that's what developers do. They add value. So as a result, it's quite a good place to operate in, but it does mean that it's hard work. It does mean that there will be a lot of opportunities that you look at where people don't want to sell. But equally, when you find one that does, you are in a position there's no competition. They're not talking to anybody else. You're the only game in town. And as I said, these opportunities are potentially worth six figures to you. So why wouldn't you do it? Again, you're differentiating yourself for the competition. Because it's more difficult, fewer people do it. If you can do the stuff, and this applies to any walk of life, if you're doing stuff that the competition aren't doing, you're going that extra mile, you have the better chance. So I would say, don't just think that, you know what, I can't be bothered, it's too difficult, the returns aren't that great because I've done it before and I haven't had any deals out of it. Persistence pays. It is a numbers game. So keep going, keep doing those things that other people aren't doing, and then ultimately you will get the rewards as a result. So hard work, and in particular, looking for off-market deals, is something that most developers don't do enough of. So differentiate yourself from them and make sure that you're doing that hard work. Next one on my list is about elevator pitches. And we've talked before on Open Door about elevator pitches, and we don't actually mean an elevator pitch. We just mean the ability to talk with confidence about us and about our business and what we do. So it kind of goes back to the branding. It goes back to the instilling confidence in your credibility. So when you're fresh out of the blocks, you haven't got a track record as a developer. You've got a team that's got track record, but you haven't. And so this is kind of a new venture and you're working with people for the first time. So of course, they are going to be looking and your credibility is going to be a question mark. And as I said before, we want to make that a small question mark. One of the ways you do that is make sure that you practice your elevator pitch. So when you describe your business, when you are in a scenario, a situation where you are talking to, it could be any type of protagonist. It could be an agent on a viewing. It could be an architect in their offices. It could be a potential private investor or commercial lender. Any one of those situations, you are going to be asked about your business and about you. So tell me, what's your story? What is it you do? You might get asked some hard questions. So exactly how many property developments have you done? You need to be able to answer those without looking nervous, anxious, shaky, flaky. You need to be confident in your responses. Good news is there's a pretty finite number of questions that you're going to get asked, to be honest, as a property developer. Some of the questions, they're not going to be rocket science. They are going to be about your business and about you and about what you intend to do. There might be some more general questions about how you see the market and stuff like that. But all of these things are within a fairly tight nub of information, and you can practice that to a very significant degree, so that that process of rehearsing your elevator pitch instills confidence in you. So it's a win-win. Not only does it sound great because you're so adept at delivering it, it sort of sounds great because you have heard it from out of your own lips countless times as you've practiced it, whether that's kind of in the shower, in the car, with a friend, like role play, whatever it is, you've heard that a lot of times. So the mistake, I would say, is to try and grow your elevator pitch organically. You know, try it for the first time at a real meeting, and then think, oh, that didn't go very well, and then try it again in a second meeting, marginally better. No, complete waste of the opportunity. Instead, practice it with nobody to yourself, and do it lots and lots of times. And then when the time you actually get to sit down with somebody, you'll find that it just kind of the flavor just floods out. It just comes up naturally to you, and you feel confident saying it. And also you can deal with some of those slightly more challenging questions because you've already answered them multiple times. Again, it kind of feels like well, a lot of work, and I'm sure the conversation will go okay, or I'm really confident, yeah, I can handle that, it'll be fine, no problem. Again, just don't try and yeah, that's just laziness. Yeah. Okay. So you know as well as I do that actually practice does make perfect. It will make you better. So there is no such thing as thinking, well, it'll be perfect enough. It'll be fine. It's like, well, if it could be better, it should be better. So take the steps to make sure that it is as good as you can get, because that again sets you apart from the competition and makes you look good, makes you feel good, puts you in the best possible position to have that credibility. Once you've got a few projects under your belt, you've also got other stuff backing you up there, and you can reference that. But certainly when you're starting out, you haven't got that. And so all the more important that you then focus on these other bits where you can make a difference and again, differentiate yourself from the competition. Next one on my list, we're getting there. This is 7 out of 10. Now, I probably would say this. I mean, as somebody that runs a property development training company, you're not expecting me to say that training is going to be a complete waste of time. But training is essential in property development, I would say. I think to do it, one of the challenges with development, I think, like some other things, is that, of course, it's possible to do it without training. You can't become a dentist without training, or at least if it's probably going to be quite a short-lived career, mainly because there's some fairly stringent rules that require you to, if you're going to offer your services to people, that, yeah, you've got the right diplomas on the wall. And that means that you've got to be trained and you've got to go through a process. With development, you don't have to. You can literally become a developer tomorrow, or in fact, today, if you want to. Go out there, buy something, appoint a team, go and convert it into something, or do a new build, whatever it is you want to do, you can do it. The problem, though, is that we're typically in development talking about what at a personal level are likely to be some fairly large numbers, 6-figure sums. And so it's possible to make a balls up of it. There are some holes that you can fall down quite easily. You can make some very rudimentary mistakes. And of course, as a result, they can be quite expensive. And those are not mistakes that you want to be making. And of course, getting trained means that you can avoid those mistakes. But the flip side of that is about seeing opportunities. So you're out there competing with other developers for opportunities. And the big advantage you've got is that the value of a property, as I mentioned earlier, is different for different people. If you know how to convert a building into 4 flats, but I know how to convert it into 5 flats, then I can probably pay more for it or make more profit from it. So I'm more likely to win the deal. So it then becomes a question of what we call sweating the asset. So you've got the same building, and it's a question of what is the best way of getting the maximum value out of that building. And of course, for most new developers, they don't have the experience. So they will look at it very logically. They might get some input from their team, their architect in particular, but ultimately they're kind of new to this. So they don't have that depth of experience. Whereas if you get yourself trained, you don't need to have 30, 40 years of experience. You just simply need to know what you don't know. So when you're presented with a building, well, if you do it this way, if you think about this, or you use these, for example, permitted development rights, you're going to be in a situation where you can take advantage of that. You can get more out of the building and you can make more money. So the advantage of getting trained is twofold. Firstly, it protects you against doing the wrong thing and getting into a sticky mess that could prove to be quite expensive. But secondly, it gives you the opportunities that other people can't see. I mean, luckily with property development, because we're talking about six-figure sums, the value, the kind of payback is significant. If you were getting trained, to perfect your tiddlywink technique, different issue. You probably wouldn't pay very much for that training, because there's not a lot of money in tiddlywinks. Not that I've tried, but I suspect that it's fairly limited. In property development, there are some significant numbers involved. So getting trained, getting the best training that you can afford, absolutely essential, I would say. So that's one thing, and there's lots of advantages of doing it. Number 8 on my list is about making offers. So people get a bit scared with making offers, and that's because I think they think of it sometimes as like they're making an offer on their own home. Now, you wouldn't buy your own home unless you were pretty comfortable that it's the place. This is the one that we want. This is the one we're going to buy, because it's almost it's partly a head decision, but it's mainly a heart decision. We want to live there. We love the place. We fall in love with the place. That's not what happens in development. In development, we're only interested in the bottom right-hand corner, that number, that profit number. And everybody knows that. Everybody is involved. And what you can find sometimes is that people get a bit nervous about making offers. So they kind of wait and wait and wait and wait. They do the numbers once, then twice, then 3 times, and they firm them up, make absolutely triply, quadruply sure that everything stacks up. And then they make an offer, only to find out that it's already been sold. So making an offer earlier than that, I wouldn't advocate making an offer as soon as you hear about the opportunity. You do have to do a certain amount of due diligence and make sure that it looks like it's got the legs to become a decent deal. But by making an offer earlier, that puts you in a situation where you are able to, it raises your profile. So you're a serious buyer. You're going to get more airtime and more information as a result. It's going to move things forward. And also people know that you are in a due diligence process. So if it turns out that you discover that there are some reasons why the numbers don't stack, or you can't pay as much as you'd hoped to be able to pay, then you either withdraw your offer or you adjust your offer. At the end of the day, you've found stuff out through your due diligence process that other developers are going to find out as well. So ultimately, we're not trying to pull a fast one here. What we're doing is establishing that initially the project's got legs. We're confident that if the numbers pan out, that it will be a good deal. But then we do our due diligence, and if it finds that it's not, that there are some issues, then we've always got that option to bail out or to refine or adjust our offer. So have that in mind. Just be mindful that waiting to the last minute until you're absolutely 1,000,000% sure, you can miss out on offers that way. So think about making those offers earlier. Another one, the penultimate one, is about your numbers. So one of your jobs as a developer is to be on top of your numbers. And there's a lot of numbers to think about. And obviously on our program, we train people how to do that. But whichever way you're doing it, you've still got a lot of boxes to fill in terms of the costs that are associated. And of course, they're important, because if you miss out costs, then guess what? You make less profit. One of the things that you will do, and you have to do as you go through the process of refining a deal and kind of getting to the point where you're comfortable with the numbers, is a process of refinement. So you won't necessarily know to the nearest pound the cost of every single piece of work that's involved in a project right at the start. You're going to have to find that out as you go along. It might involve getting quotes from people as you go along, and indications of pricing. You might start off with assumptions, because that's nice and easy, round ballpark numbers, because that gets you to a kind of first pass where you can go, this has got legs, or it hasn't. But then when you get much beyond that point, you need to start firming your numbers up. And one of the mistakes that quite often can occur is that people make the mistake of assuming that their assumptions are real numbers. And even if they were the numbers that were used last time, there could quite easily be reasons why those numbers need to change. There's stuff that they haven't thought of, they've forgotten about. There is a different perspective. So make sure that you always firm up your numbers before you commit to a project, and that every number on your spreadsheet effectively is has been checked, rather than rely on assumptions. The final piece of advice, and the final problem that I see with kind of generally, I would say, is about comfort zones. we all live in comfort zones. There's all stuff that we're comfortable doing, and so many people kind of try and operate within it, and they don't move outside, and it's a real lost opportunity. So when we move outside our comfort zones, it feels scary for obvious reasons. But the good news is that our comfort zones expand behind us. So as we get used to doing it, so we get more confident, more comfortable in doing it. And so all of a sudden, those things are now in our comfort zone. The key is to kind of recognize that that's happening. Quite often with things like procrastination and so on, we'll look at the jobs that we've got to do, and we're going to go, oh, I'm going to do this one because I like this one. This one's nice, and it's still working on my business. Well, still working on my property journey, but this one over here, I'll do that tomorrow because that's a bit more scary. And as a result, guess what? We do exactly the same conversation tomorrow as well. So all of those outside the comfort zone jobs, they just get pushed on the manana pile, and they never get done. Instead, make it your goal to operate outside your comfort zone. If that's where you operate, you are going to be moving forward at 1,000,000 miles an hour, because most people fail to do this. You should, as I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt said, do one thing every day that scares you. Well, this is it. Operate in that place where you. Yes, you're going to feel the fear, but you're going to do it anyway. You're going to operate in that place. So often I see people fail to take enough action to move themselves forward. And normally that's because it sits outside their comfort zone. So make sure that you've got comfort zones as something on your radar, to make sure that you kind of being honest with yourself and taking a step back and saying, yeah, okay, I need to do this. I need to move outside my comfort zone, and you will move forward a lot more quicker. Phew, there we go. 10 things that I see that people get wrong in property development. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully you don't suffer from all of them. But if you do, hopefully there's a few ideas about how you can fix it. That's just about it for this episode. As ever, it'd be great to hear what you think. What are the issues that affect you? Please put any comments below. And if you're interested in finding out more about small-scale property development, we've put together a free pre-recorded training session which tells you what it's all about and how you can get into it. The link for that is propertyceo.co.uk/SFR, and SFR stands for six-figure roadmap. So basically we'll show you how it's possible to make these six-figure sums, six-figure profits from smaller development projects. Wow, I hope you enjoyed that episode of Open Door. Many more coming your way. If you did enjoy it, it would mean a lot to us if you wouldn't mind hitting that like button. And if you hit the subscribe button, obviously YouTube will make sure that you get alerted to each time a new episode is released. That's it from me. Look forward to seeing you again very soon.